Hello students, I Divya Kumari Meena. Welcome all of you in the class of English Literature of BA Part first year. Today's topic is a story. The name of the story is A Cup of Tea. The story A Cup of Tea is written by Katherine Mansfield, who was born in 1841 and died in 1923. She was born in New Zealand. The story is one of the most famous work written by Katherine Mansfield. This story is very famous because of its impressionistic technique. This story is the psychological study of Rosemary Fell, who is a woman of rich society. She tries to show off her pride of her riches and also tries to show off love of art. One winter evening, a poor girl asked her money to buy a cup of tea. In order to show her riches and love of art, and she became extra kind to her, and she took her home in her car to give her tea. She fed her with her own hand. But when Rosemary's husband, Philip, returned home, he understood that the girl was taken from street. Her husband wanted to get rid of the girl, but Rosemary wanted to help her by keeping her in her home. But when Rosemary's husband, Philip, praised the girl by saying that she is absolutely lovely, and I kept watching her when I entered into your room. The feeling of jealousy aroused in Rosemary by listening the words of her husband, and immediately she gave up the idea of keeping that girl in her home, and she left that girl, and she asked her husband in the sense of jealousy, am I pretty? So through this story, Katherine Mansfield shows that a woman is a woman after all. It doesn't matter she belongs to any status. She tries to show that a woman is weak, jealous, in spite of her desire to appear differently. So, The story is the psychological study of the major character of this story, a cup of rosemary. Now let us begin with the text of the story, a cup of tea. Rosemary Fell was not exactly beautiful. No, you couldn't have called her beautiful, pretty. Well, if you look to pieces, but why be so cruel as to take anyone to pieces? She was young, brilliant, extremely modern, ex- exquisitely well dressed, amazingly well read, in the newest of the new books, and her parties were the most delicious mixture of really important people and artists, quaint creature discoveries of hers, some of them too terrifying for words, but others quite presentable and amusing. In this paragraph, Katherine Mansfield describes about the heroine of the story, who is Rosemary Fell, who is very who is not too much beautiful, but she is called pretty. She is young, brilliant, modern, well dressed. She has number of qualities. It shows that she belongs to the upper class. She is well read. She wear beautiful. She look beautiful, and she also wear expensive clothes in the party, and in her parties very important people gather there. Rosemary had been married 2 years. She had a duck of a boy. No, not Peter, Michael. And her husband absolutely adored her. They were rich, really rich, not just comfortably well off, which is odious and stuffy and sounds like one's grandparents. Rosemary had been married 2 years ago, and now she has a very lovely boy child. Her husband also love her, and they are very rich people. But if Rosemary wanted to shop, she would go to Paris, as you and I would go to Bond Street. If she want to purchase anything, she go to expensive places, not like the ordinary people who go to Bond Street. If she wanted to buy flowers, the car pulled up at that perfect shop in Regent Street, and Rosemary inside the shop just gazed in her dazzled, rather exotic way and said, I want those and those and those. Give me 4 bunches of those and that jar of roses. Yes, I will have all roses in the jar. No, no, lilac. I hate lilac. It has got no shape. That attendant bowed and put the lilac out of sight, as though this was only too true. Lilac was dreadfully shapeless. Give me those stunning little tulips, those red, white ones. And she was followed to the car by a thin shop girl, staggering under an immense white paper armful that looked like a baby in long clothes. If Rosemary wants to buy flowers, the driver takes her to the perfect shop in Regent Street. And when Rosemary moves inside the shop and watch every kind of flower, and there she demands about the different kind of flowers, and if she dislike any flower like lilac, the attendant, the shopkeepers remove that flower from her sight. This paragraph shows her richness, the effect of her richness. One winter afternoon, she had been buying something in a little antique shop in Curzon Street. It was a shop she liked for a thing one usually had it to oneself, and then the man who kept it was ridiculously fond of serving her. He beamed whenever she came in. He clasped his hands. He was so gratified he could scarcely speak. Flattery, of course, all the same. There was something. One day, when it was the season of winter, during the afternoon, Rosemary went in a antique shop, and the shopkeeper was very fond of her. There, there was a glow on the face of the shopkeeper while attending her, and with the flattery he said to her, "You see, madam," I would explain in his low, respectful tone, "I love my things. I would rather no part with them than sell them to someone who does not appreciate them, who has not that fine feeling which is so rare." And breathing deeply, and unrolled a tiny square of blue velvet and pressed it on the glass counter with his pale fingertip. And the shopkeeper said to the Rosemary that that he tries to pretend as if he loves the thing of his shop too much, and he says that he sell his thing to only those customers who really appreciate the things and understand the value of that things. And he tries to define that these things are really very rare. And he unclothed a box in front of the Rosemary.